If you like audiobooks or audio shows, check out a free trial of Audible. Just click the link in the description.
You are listening to MINDSHOCK True Crime. This is the Steven Avery series, episode 26, Coronavirus Steve. Now, this actually isn't about the coronavirus, although Steven Avery has tested positive for coronavirus while in prison. But there's another issue here that I wanted to touch upon before getting back into the nitty-gritty, detail-oriented aspects of the case, of which many are coming up. But in this short episode, I just wanted to address that the Steven Avery case isn't really about Steven Avery, and how illogical guilters just fail to see this because they're just clinging dogmatically to their faith-based, indoctrinated beliefs into the cult of authority worship, where they just can't believe that officers can ever do anything wrong under any circumstances. And the coincidence theories they're willing to believe are far more ridiculous than any kind of conspiracy theory regarding the case. So, yeah, very, very frustrating aspect of the case. The Steven Avery case, Making a Murder, it's not really about Steven Avery, and I will explain why. As always, if you like the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. If you like the podcast, hit the like button, and share it across social media platforms. Keep up the awareness, not just on the Steven Avery case, but all wrongful convictions. You can check us out on social media, Twitter, Reddit, Patreon, Facebook. Patrons do get priority for case and topic and co-podcaster requests. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings, insults of any kind, leave them in the comments section. Alright, so here's the basic issue here. Actually, let's jump into what happened with Steven Avery. So, as reported in early June, so last week, Steven Avery did test positive for COVID-19. If you haven't checked out the MindShock Coronavirus podcast, check those out. We go pretty in-depth on what it all means, if the coronavirus is even real. If it is real, did it always exist and people just noticed it now? And of course, regarding the tests, how accurate are they? Seems like not very. But anyway, he was apparently tested, and he tested positive. Kathleen Zellner confirmed this last Wednesday. It is true that Steven Avery has tested positive for COVID-19 virus. He will fully recover, she wrote. The bigger threat to Avery is whether the COA will cure the disease that caused him to be wrongfully convicted. And that was June 3rd, 2020. Avery is in Waupun Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. Supposedly there was already more than 200 positive COVID-19 tests. And from NME.com, Making a Murder star Steven Avery is almost well after contracting coronavirus. Avery says, quote, "This virus is nothing compared to the suffering he has endured as an innocent man behind bars," end quote. Giving an update on the news via Twitter, Zellner said, "Just got off the phone with Steven. His voice is strong and clear. He has no respiratory issues, no fever, or muscle aches. He says he is almost well, and this virus is nothing compared to the suffering he has endured as an innocent man behind bars." So once again, just to remind all the illogical guilters, the coincidence theorists out there, Steven Avery said he would rather spend his entire life in prison than say he did something he didn't do and walk free and get to go home to his parents. This is what he said during his first frame-up by a lot of the same individuals that somehow didn't need to be deposed once Teresa Hallback conveniently disappeared and Avery was charged, or Avery was arrested. And yes, all very, very convenient. The coincidence theorists write that all off. But anyway, So during his first frame up, where these individuals proved they were willing to frame a man and then also withhold information to keep the framed innocent man in jail while they actually knew who the guilty party was, allowed to walk free and wreak havoc on the population. But they would never do it again, right? Especially not when they did it for free, but they would never do it to save millions of dollars. They would never do it when there was a $36 million lawsuit. They would only frame the guy when there's no money or egos on the line. But when there are, that's when they would magically never, ever engage in anything shady, ever. Oh man, coincidence theorists are an amusing bunch. But anyway, so yeah, while he was in prison during that frame up, he was given the option for early release to confessing, and he wouldn't do it. Now, what do we make of that? Because he wouldn't do it, so he would rather sit in prison than go home. So the guilters, they pretend this guy's like a scumbag, criminal, murderer who committed all these crimes and he's evil. But to me, that seems like a man of integrity. Now, it's kind of irrelevant for what I'm going to say next, whether he is the most evil scumbag in the history of the world and he's guilty, or whether he's innocent. Because the whole point that, again, I mean, how many guilters have proven to be logical? They were logical, they wouldn't be guilters. They would be truthers, out for the truth. Not innocenters, but truthers, out for objective truth. So how logical is it to dig a deeper and deeper hole in the complicity, the corruption, incompetence, whatever you want to call it, of Manitowoc County and state officials? Because this has nothing to do with Avery. Because if his procedures can just be bypassed and innocent or even guilty people can be sent to prison without any evidence or following any of the laws on the books, that's a major issue. And that's why this has nothing to do with Steven Avery. The Making a Murderer documentary simply highlighted corruption and or incompetence. That's what it did, whether he's guilty or innocent. Maybe he's guilty. If he does have multiple split personalities, some of which are psychic, and they want to sabotage the other personalities, maybe he did it. I mean, if he's the love child between MacGyver and a Navy SEAL, maybe with all these personalities, possibly psychic abilities, supernatural abilities, maybe he pulled it off. It's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't know. I'm not saying he's 100% innocent. It seems unusual, and obviously the evidence is not there to prove that he did it. And that's really what this whole thing is about. And, I mean, guilters really have no real argument. They said, oh, well, the jury convicted him. Well, the juries convict a lot of innocent people. What does that have to do with what does that have to do with truth? So they don't care about truth or justice. They only care that a jury was able to reach a verdict. Now, once again, a contaminated jury pool, intimidated jurors, with all of these protocols not followed, presumption of innocence violated in the media. So this is all, again, that's not even a real argument. But even if you pretend it is, even if you look at other cases where there wasn't all of this shadiness and the jury still got it wrong. So what does beyond a reasonable doubt mean? And so my solution, of course, was the jury can't just be Joe Schmoes who don't understand logic, because then how would justice be served? There has to be some kind of English comprehension, critical thinking, deductive reasoning exam that the jurors need to pass, because if they don't even understand the laws, how can they make sure justice is served? That's really, really bizarre how the illogical guilters, I mean, I guess they're fans of some kind of North Korean justice system or something like that, where innocent people can just be, innocent or guilty, you just be thrown in prison. It doesn't really matter. You don't have to be proven guilty by the law, according to the law. None of that matters. Because do they not realize they're supporting that, or are all guilters simply shills or friends and family of corrupt Manitowoc state officials whose egos just can't handle being wrong and exposed, so that's why they peddle the BS that they peddle, which falls apart on under any kind of logical scrutiny. So that's the bigger issue here. So all the diversion tactics. Oh, Steven Avery's a scumbag. Steven Avery threw a cat in a fire, which of course he didn't even do, according to the police reports. So, I mean, obviously, guilters don't really care about facts or truth. But yeah, so if they just want to character assassinate Steven Avery, that has nothing to do with the laws. That has absolutely nothing to do with the burden of proof. You could take the worst scumbag serial killer in the world. If you accuse him of a particular crime, you have to prove that he did the crime that he was accused of. Character assassinating from all these other things, which may or may not be true, but even let's say they're true for the sake of argument, what does that have to do with proving beyond a reasonable doubt that he was guilty of the crime he's being tried for? I mean, that just makes a mockery of the entire justice system. And that's exactly what Manitowoc did, and Wisconsin state officials backed and continue to cover up. So again, the guilters who also attacked Zellner, who's already gotten a lot of people exonerated that were innocent. I mean, I'm going to do a podcast episode on the Kevin Fox case because that one's bizarre. You know, the illogical guilters probably thought he was guilty too because, oh, he was found guilty. Oh, the police can't lie, right? And they can't be incompetent either. They're always perfect. All prosecutors are always perfect. Corruption does not exist. I mean, it's almost like, what level of childishness? Do they also believe in unicorns and Santa Claus? I mean, that's the mental level guilters are at. It's really bizarre. So the whole point of this short podcast, again, Steven Avery, coronavirus, he's recovering, and he made a statement that it's nothing compared to just having to be in prison while innocent. And again, also the throwback, and like I've stated many times, this is really what got me to think that this isn't an open and shut case and he's not just definitely guilty, nothing to see here, because he was willing to sit in prison his whole life for an assault. He wouldn't admit an assault. I guess you could put this to the test. If Wisconsin state officials, if they offer him a plea deal, admit he's guilty, he walks out tomorrow, what is this man going to do? Because he's proven in the past he was willing to sit forever. Now, maybe he changed his mind since then. Maybe not. Who knows? But it just seems like being a simpleton enables him to have a certain kind of integrity and conviction. A conniving, skeezy scumbag that might have the intelligence to perform the greatest cleanup job in the history of crime might not have. So, yeah, just quick things to ponder for the guilters. In the next episode, we will be back to the Avery Salvage Yard, and we will be looking at all the comings and goings of all these individuals that somehow all missed Avery burning a body, which would take many hours, and still the temperatures in a barrel fire would not turn a human body into cremains, and if it did, it would not leave those plastic pieces of cell phone. So, I mean, this case is just really bizarre, and I've said it before. It's going to go in the textbooks as wrongful conviction. I mean, just a case study in sheer incompetence and corruption, and how things should not be done or handled. Innocent or guilty, it's still the textbook case on wrongful convictions, and basically a frame-up job. So, many things to ponder, as always. If you like the podcast, donate to our PayPal. Check us out on social media, Twitter, Reddit, Patreon, Facebook. Questions, comments, thoughts, theories, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings, insults, leave them in the comment section. If you like the podcast, share it. Keep up awareness, not just for this wrongful conviction, but for many others. This is Bruce McGuire, signing off. Catch you guys next time.